So I just watched Stranger Things Season 5, Volume 1.
We have a plan.
Yeah, what could go wrong?
No idea, but I think we should find out.
And if I could just sum it up very quickly without giving any detail about how I feel about it, I set out to watch Episode 1 and then talk about it right now like I'm doing and get it out as quickly as I could, and then follow suit with watching Episode 2, 3, and 4, finishing up Volume 1, and then doing like an overall video. As soon as I started watching Episode 1 and it finished, I couldn't stop and I finished Volume 1. So now this is just a Volume 1 video.
Oh my God, it's not gonna work. It's not gonna work. We're not gonna make it.
I got it. Hang on.
Welcome back to Off the Couch Movie Reviews. I'm Michael, and yeah, let's get into it. So Stranger Things Season 5, Volume 1. I think it started out a little wishy-washy, and I'm someone who's a gigantic fan of the series. Not someone who's crazy, you know, I do have a couple things, don't get me wrong, but who goes crazy on merchandise, shirts, Hellfire Club, goes to premieres. I have been to, like, you know, those Stranger Things experiences, you know, Halloween Horror Night mazes. I did one once. So overall, I'd say more so than like a savage, I don't know. A crazy fangirl, fanboy type thing. More of like a genre. I love Stranger Things because it takes everything I love about genres and movies and classic movies, 80s movies, and just puts it into a modern TV show. And it makes me very jealous that it exists, because if I made a TV show, if I had AI make me a show right now, it would have been Stranger Things if it didn't exist. I just love the world, so if they just serve shit and it's Stranger Things, I might still like it, because I'm like, well, you know, that's what they did, I guess. The creators, the Duffer brothers, and the directors they hire and the writers, you know, everyone they gather, they do a pretty damn good job, I think, for what it is. So you don't really have to worry too much about that. But I will say that Season 4 left off like this. A big epic thing was happening. The town was like tearing in half. They're all looking from a field like, oh my God, what's happening? And then it cuts to like this, well, it does cut to like it shows Will when he was a kid, and first in the Upside Down, which I thought was a reused clip at first until I realized, oh, this is new footage. So they just found a kid that looked a lot like him. Bravo on that. And shot a little ditty of a scene to set up what's going on. But aside from that, it kind of goes to this upbeat, like, hey, Robin's got a radio show and we're going about our lives. And that was a little bit of a shock, because it's you know, ended on this epic, like, what's happening? The world's ending. Back to normal, military quarantine. It's been a long time, and initially when it started showing us the characters, obviously they're aging more than their characters technically should be aging, and they try to hide it in some ways. But when I first started seeing the characters, especially the older ones, I was, you know, almost like, is this? It sort of feels like playing the characters from previous seasons instead of just playing the characters naturally progressing or something. Almost like they're parroting themselves. I felt that for a little bit, maybe like 5 minutes, and luckily that wore off and I kind of got into it. I feel the same way with movies like Dumb and Dumber.
Come on, spit it out. God, yeah!
It did have some funny moments, but I just overall was like, it feels like they're just playing parodies of themselves from the first movie. And I think most of that's just because they're so fucking old, even though they wrote it into that movie. And honestly, that's like one of the best jokes of why that is, with him being in a coma, and it was just a joke the whole time. It's perfect, such a perfect Dumb and Dumber thing. Like, you did that the whole time?
And it was all just for a gag? Uh-huh. Awesome!
A huge part of that was because they're too fucking old, but also, like, I just felt like Jim Carrey was like, you know, just doing over the top. It just didn't feel natural. When he played Lloyd in the original, it felt natural, like that's just how this guy is. So, little hint to that, and there's a lot of franchises that have done that when they return so long, when so much time has passed and they go back to it, which happens with Stranger Things. or the last 2 seasons anyway. It did start out a little slow. Wasn't a problem at all for me. I like the slow buildup. I want to be in the world as long as I can because I'm a huge fan of it. So if it's just the characters sitting in a room like staring at each other, I don't give a fuck. I like the show. I like the world. I'll stare at them for a half hour just staring at each other, doing nothing. Because that's the kind of guy I am, whatever that means. Once it started to move, I think it was going along nicely. I thought the characters were great, and the mystery it's building, and it's continuing to build. Of course, we've learned some things if you watch all of Volume 1. Spoilers, by the way. So the setup is, after the events of Season 4, Hawkins is basically split open and exposed the Upside Down. Vecna has been defeated for the moment, but they're not sure where he went or what happened to him. The military has moved in, built a base at the opening of the Upside Down, both inside and out the Upside Down. So that's new. The military has a base inside the Upside Down. And basically the whole town is quarantined, but the crew has been going on crawls where Hopper goes into the Upside Down and is basically looking for Vecna and seeing what's going on. In order to do that, they have to wait for convoys so he can sneak in there undetected. And apparently it's been going on for a while because he's on like number 37 or something and they haven't found anything. Of course, some things start happening. The youngest sister of the Wheelers is seeing somebody called Mr. Whatsit or Mr. WhatsApp. Nobody else can see him, just her. Until episode 2 or 3, I think. They keep that a secret and it's revealed it's Henry, in his human form. No surprise there. But apparently he's been showing to most of the children, or 12 children, I forget the exact number, in Hawkins, and luring them into the Upside Down to suck them with his tentacles. For what reason, we don't know yet. And once the crew learns about this, they try to stop him, obviously, and round up the kids. And that's where we meet a wonderful, large kid named Derek. One of the best new characters in the show because he's hilarious. They use him perfectly, and 11, honestly, is kind of sidelined in this season compared to other seasons. They focus more on other characters. Not necessarily a bad thing, but we're just used to 11 being like the main hero and the main character we really follow, although they do take her, she's going into hiding in this season. She's going to meet these random psychic kids who never show up again until later. Not that anybody cares about it, but they finally make that tangent in season 2 come back around and actually have a point, which I'll get to in a little bit. 11 goes into the Upside Down when she's chasing after the Demogorgon, basically. And then, it's revealed that there's something blocking my powers that they have harnessed. It's gotta be Vecna. The military must have Vecna inside their compound. And you think it's Vecna the whole time until Hopper goes into this containment room with bombs strapped to his chest. And it's like, he's gonna sacrifice himself to kill Vecna. But then he walks out. What? Why would he be doing that? He leads 11 to the room and you find out it's her sister from season 2 that we all forgot about and don't care about. Will we care about her now? Maybe. They used her somehow to block 11's powers and do who knows what else. So she's back. Yay, yippee. And Vecna appears, obliterates the entire military compound, and then tells Will his evil plan and that he was the reason for it. Doesn't kill him or anybody else, don't know why. I hope they have a story reason for that, other than just like, he's the evil monologuing guy and he has to reveal his plan a little bit and then just go away and not kill anybody, because that always makes sense. Again, I don't care about that because I just love the show, but that's what happens in a nutshell. And I'm leaving out some side things, but of course this happens, but it really drew attention to itself in this, and the characters ask questions a lot, like, but why would he do it? I don't know. But it doesn't make sense. I don't know. Like, there's a lot of scenes of the characters asking questions. But why does he need kids? If he did that then, why didn't he do it like over here? It makes sense because I think in real life you would be asking questions like that. But it does happen a lot. And if that's not handled right, both in terms of the overall writing and the way the characters act it, you know, that's when people are like, oh, they're just exposition dumping and it's distracting or bad. I don't think it was a little distracting because I noticed it. I normally don't pay attention to stuff like that. Doesn't really bother me. But I just noticed it because it happens a lot in this show. And like every episode, these characters are doing that. And they kind of sit around and have powwows. I honestly like that the show has that. That might be something that's criticized by other people. I kind of like it because it makes you feel like you're sitting there with them. Like, what's going on, guys? I don't know. We're going to talk about it right now. And we'll figure it out. And there's some mystery there. And it sort of takes care of some things. Sometimes where you might have to be like, you know, why are they doing that choice? Oh, well, they're asking a question about it. So they don't know. And they're just kind of figuring it out. So it opens up other holes, but then it helps explain other ones or closes other ones, if that makes sense. So I didn't mind that, but that does happen a lot. So you could call that exposition questioning. I don't know. Maybe a little too much, but I think it worked. But the twist of the Mr. What's-It character, you could see from a mile away. Like, who else would that be? It's very obvious who it turns out to be. Vecna. Henry. That was not even a surprise. I just instantly knew, oh, that's Henry. That's Henry. That's who that is. Which is fine, but it's just like kind of funny with like, there's no point to hide it. Just, it's Henry. Just reveal that. Basically, with this off the couch review segment that I do, I literally watch it and then I come talk about it. It's not planned. It's a little bit different than some other reviews. So sometimes I can ramble, but it's like how it makes me feel right after I watch it. That's what this is. And because of that, I might flip-flop between things and it's just not structured. So FYI. Obviously in Stranger Things, they pay homage, whatever way you say that, to many, mainly movies, but characters, filmmakers, etc. And that could be a poster in the background that is just in the background, or it could be, actual lines of dialogue. It could be the actors that they use in the show, or music. So I'm happy to report that there's many references in season 5, both in terms of the music. The Thing comes to mind, obviously, with the soldiers and fighting the Demogorgons, stuff like that, a little bit of aliens, the flamethrower, all that stuff's awesome. Again, why I love the show, because it's everything I love in a show. I did think, though, speaking of references, a huge missed opportunity was with Karen Wheeler, Mrs. Wheeler, when the Demogorgon is trying to take her youngest daughter, and she fights to defend her, basically, and she grabs a wine bottle and I think she says, like, get away from my daughter, or
Stay away from my daughter!
She could have said, get away from her, you bitch! It was like the perfect opportunity for her to say that, and it would have made sense. Yeah, it would have been way on the nose, especially since as a Demogorgon, what the fuck is that? Is that like a unisex thing? Is that even... I'm pretty sure it doesn't have a sex. But still, you could have said it. Or they could have said, get away from her, you Demogorgon. I don't know. Get away from her, you creature. They could have done something. But I know they still paid reference to it, I think. Just because I felt it instantly. Even though I was like, oh, they could have literally said the line. I felt that moment as being very similar to that. And I think that was probably intentional. In that moment, Mrs. Wheeler stabs the Demogorgon with the wine bottle, which on itself might be a little goofy, although it's portrayed serious and like she's defending her daughter. But you could take it, both things from it. Later on, that's used as a joke. 11 says, oh, Mrs. Wheeler heard it with wine or something like that, which was a funny line, funny moment. But apparently Mrs. Wheeler's wine bottle, her just going, ah, does more damage to a Demogorgon than like 20 soldiers just unloading clips into a single one. Not to mention the crossfire that they do isn't hitting anybody, barely the Demogorgon. Like it cuts to the Demogorgon of 20 guys like, you know, unloading a clip. And it's just like 1 bullet, 2 bullet, 3 bullet. It's like, I love how they take liberty in moments like that. Again, that's one of those things like, yeah, that would really bug me in other stuff, but in this I'm just like, ah, whatever. But yeah, they do that. They take liberties on that because that makes no sense. That thing would be getting lit up and if one of the kids just had a single like pistol and pow, 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 in that moment they'd probably be like, you know, the Demogorgon would die because it's just convenient for the story for that to happen. But of course, these soldiers can't overpower a single one so easily. It's got to fight, and it's like, ah, it's super powerful. Just they take liberty with that, and it's and then later on, there's more soldiers, more Demogorgons. They're just and fucking spraying everywhere, and of course, well, they don't show it. Maybe it does happen, but they'd be mowing each other down. They're like fucking spraying everywhere, and just not hitting anybody. They have the friendly fire cheat code. So yeah, they have a grave sin in that, but again, I do not care, but I'm just letting you know. So overall, I was very entertained by Stranger Things Volume 1, so much so that, like I said, I was going to watch the first one and then talk about it, and I just couldn't stop. I had to finish it. So, I mean, that's the highest praise you can have. You just want to keep watching it. So they did their job, and honestly, I wasn't expecting anything less. I can't wait for the next volume and then the finale, which I think is the series finale. But of course, is it? Is it? You think Netflix is going to want to let that go? Maybe this main storyline is done, but we can look forward to prequels, I'm sure, or some other spin-off. I highly doubt they're just going to let it go. But yeah, which does lead me to kind of the final moment in episode 4, where, and this seed has been planted throughout the show, and then earlier in the episode, Will witnesses Uma Thurman's daughter's character, Robin, kissing her girlfriend, and obviously she's gay. Will is gay, and he's still figuring out what exactly that means, and they talk about that basically, and she explains to him that she was like him once and was waiting for someone to kind of help her with that and explain, or finding someone that would unlock what she was feeling inside or whatever. And Will was trying to do that to an extent, mainly with Mike. And it comes to a point where Vecna finally appears, blasts everyone up, and you get to Will. He takes hold of him basically and doesn't explain, but says that you were my first and you made me realize that I could do this basically, and then leaves. Of course he leaves. You know, the smart thing to do would be, I'm here, I'm gonna blast all you guys and kill you so you can't fight me, but instead I'm gonna monologue to you, drop you and be like, I'm so powerful, I don't care. Even though you almost defeated me in the previous season, I'm just gonna walk off because you guys are totally not a threat. Even though it really would make more sense for me just to blast you guys right here. Again, take liberty, it has to happen, because the show would just end right there basically, wouldn't it? But that unlocks Will, the sorcerer, as Mike would put it. And he gets Vecna's powers, because that's planted that he has a psychic connection to him. And Mike suggests, hey, maybe you could control the stuff since you're seeing through Vecna. Which does beg the question, now that at the end he's shown to have powers, does he have his own powers like 11, or is it linked to Vecna only? Like he's kind of channeling Vecna's power through him, and like when if Vecna goes away, he loses them kind of thing. We don't know. We're gonna find out later on, maybe. But the show also ties in with that he because it cuts to like a home movie, which was kind of sweet, if you want to call it that, of Will as a kid, you know, building things with his brother, meeting Mike. It's tied into like something Robin tells him, that like you have to realize that the power to do that is within you, to be free basically, and not shackle yourself to like somebody else has to help me with this. Like you're free, just realize that you are who you are. And so it ties into basically his sexual awakening, I guess. So he found his gayness, unlocking psychic abilities. He should have done one of these, if you know what I mean. I'm just joking, okay? I'm just having fun with it. His character has always been that, and it works totally with the story. I think I remember seeing some article in a previous season where they were like, the way they handled that was they didn't care about it and they were just shoehorning it in there. I don't know about that, but in my mind, that's just the character, like a trait of the character, which is fine. It's when movies like, all right, stop, everything stop, this is the 30-minute special on being gay or something, like, that is what people don't like, because it's just so forced. That doesn't matter. The way that they handle in Stranger Things, I think is fine. It's showing a little bit of that, you know, it's the 80s, it was a little bit less accepted, maybe a lot less accepted. It wasn't common, for sure, or being out in the open. So it would be showing a kid going through that and, you know, not seeing that anywhere else except for Robin's character. It works perfectly, basically. Not distracting, and I had no problem with it. But that doesn't mean I'm not gonna make a joke about it. So yeah, Will unlocked the power of the gay. And I'm sure in Volume 2 that Will's gonna be like, I found the secret. You're gay too! Vecna's gonna be like, I'm not gay. I don't know. I'm just, there's jokes to be had, okay? Anyhow, I am curious where exactly they take that, if anywhere. Again, they don't really need to. It's just like, Will was gay in a time where it wasn't as common. End of story. Maybe, who knows where they take with that. I hope that they don't do some weird beat you over the head thing, because it's just, that's not Stranger Things. It's not necessary. We all understand that it was a less common thing to be out in the open or to see it because it was just a different time. And Stranger Things, I think, appropriately acknowledges that and just doesn't, that's just how the characters are. Moving on. How it should be done. Linda Hamilton, of course, is awesome to see her, but I don't know. Maybe she's just old. Even in the Terminator movie that she was in recently, did nothing. Like that fire that she had in Terminator 2, I didn't see that fire. Granted, they're different characters, but I don't know. And she had like big, short hair somehow. I don't know. Maybe her character will get better as it goes on, but so far I was just like, there's Linda Hamilton. Nothing special happening though. I was thoroughly entertained, not disappointed. I can't wait for Volume 2. The only thing I'm disappointed about is that I blew through the first 4 episodes and there's only 4 left. And once it's over, it's done. I'm gonna be depressed at that point. But thankfully, actually, I would have just seen Avatar: Fire and Ash, and then the final Volume 2 comes out. So yeah, I'll be depressed because 2 things I really love are gonna be over. I'll see you then.